Welcome to the Lighthouse Financial Advisers Money Over 50 podcast with Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Lighthouse Financial Advisers. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50. Today's topic is making the most of the new decade. Dallas, the date today.
It's a very exciting time. Not only a new year, new decade.
It's the 31st of December, 2019. I know we don't like to date these podcasts, but I think we have to for this one.
How are we now going to recycle this and spit it back out in 2 years' time, mate? You've just dated.
Well, we have to wait 10 years because it's called making the most of the new decade.
Yeah, that's true.
So we would actually have to wait until 10 years' time to recycle this again. I'm sure we can do another one.
You're basically just trying to show off and how hardworking we are that we're in here recording a podcast on New Year's Eve instead of at the pub somewhere. So, basically I guess the concept behind this podcast we wanted to record today was just about what we find is that most people come and see us about 10 years out from retirement, and it is surprising for a lot of people what you can achieve in 10 years' time if you're really focused and really sort of switched on. And so I guess what we wanted to go through today was just a few things that everyone can potentially look at, some changes that you can look to make in the new year, in the new decade, and then to give you a bit of, I guess, motivation to actually make those things happen is take you through a bit of a case study of a client of yours, actually, Michael, who's and what they've achieved over sort of the last 10 years. It's actually not even the last 10 years, 9 years. But so I think sometimes when we look at these different ideas of what do we need to do, it sounds like they're not big enough changes, but as we've said before, it's the compounding effect of those over that 10-year time frame makes a huge difference. That's
right. You think back 10 years ago, the last 10 years has really flown, and it's especially relevant for myself and ourselves because our business isn't even 10 years old yet. We started November 2010, so just into the nearly the full year of at the time the new decade. So we've been going for a little bit more longer than 9 years. One of our very first clients came to us in May of 2011. And they were. It's a good example to use because they were one of our very first clients, and they pretty much fit the bill of the stereotypical client, new clients that come to see us now. In almost every way, barring for the fact that their superannuation balance was actually a little bit on the low side.
And that's this is actually a great example because it's not a situation where for most people coming to see us for the first time, they're actually slightly in a better position than these guys were at that point in time. So even starting a little bit below where they would be on average, these guys have still been able to achieve really great results.
That's
over
right.
That longer time frame.
So they were age 53, a couple, experts in their own field. On reasonably good salaries, but not exceptional salaries. It was May of 2011. So together they had $264,000 in their combined superannuation funds. And at age 53, their children, the youngest had just left university, which is another common
catalyst for people.
The catalyst that we see. It's a good word to use when they first come to us. Which is generally around the age 53, age 54, age 55
somewhere around
range.
There,
So somewhere in the first half of their 50s. So like I said, $264,000 in superannuation combined between them, and which is a little bit lower than what we generally see. So typically at that age, a couple at 53, we would find that they have somewhere in the vicinity of $350,000 to probably $450,000 combined, usually in that range. So they're a little bit below what we would what we would normally see.
And it's interesting, but that's actually starting to, what we've found is even over this last sort of 9 years, that's starting to creep up, because people coming in seeing us now as opposed to 10 years ago are more likely to have had superannuation contributions paid for an extra few years of their working life.
That's a good point to make, because superannuation became compulsory in 1992. So really, these people that we're talking about now are currently aged 62.
Yeah. So it wasn't a huge amount of their working life.
It wasn't all of their working life. That they had compulsory superannuation. So very good point to make. People that are coming to us now at age 53 generally have a higher balance because they've had a longer period of time in compulsory superannuation in Australia. So came to us with $264,000 at the time. Look, their employers were paying in roughly $10,000 each in employer contributions. And what we identified is that if we could free up a spare $600 per week, which adds up to a bit more than $30,000 a year, we could put $15,000 into each of their superannuation funds. And that was the first part of the strategy now. So we did that. We did it consistently.
So that was that was what we talk about a lot with your concessional contribution. So that was the limiting factor for these guys, was the $25,000 limit. I mean, it wasn't quite at that point in time, but on average,
no, it was a bit higher at that stage.
But that's kind of where that figure came from, was to work backwards a bit and go, what can we contribute into super from before tax dollars? And so that's, I think, the next point that you were getting onto, is that $600 per week was actually a before tax contribution into super.
That's right. So that was the before tax contribution. We really started backwards and from the back end and said, okay, what would we need to do to see your combined balances be where they need to be in 10 years' time in an ideal world? And it came at about $600 per week. And we basically stripped their budget bare. It came at a good time, like I said, because their youngest had just finished university and was standing on his own 2 feet. And they just before that they had 2 children at high school.
That's right.
And then they moved to university, and then they'd become independent. So I knew that there was $600 per week in their budget somewhere.
Well, that's one of those things. Like we've said, we've spoken about this in other podcasts before, that it's a great time to snatch up that spare cash flow, because it doesn't. At that point in time, it doesn't feel like there's spare cash flow, because there hasn't been up until then. And it's only when those kids have left home that you go, if we don't take that $600 per week now and start to do something with that, your lifestyle is just going to creep out, and that money is going to get spent somewhere else, basically.
That's right. Now, $600 per week, this is magic. Is only $370 per week, really, for them. And that's purely and simply because $600 per week put into their superannuation funds combined, salary sacrificed, it only actually reduced their combined pay by $370 per week.
That's right.
Because it's tax deductible effectively. So there's a different way to make that contribution now. You can salary sacrifice, so you can put it in and claim the tax deduction at the end of the year. At the time, you could only salary sacrifice, which is what they did. What it did was reduce their pays, combined pays, by $370 per week. Now, what's really important as well is we did this on a fortnightly basis because they actually got paid fortnightly. So we actually combined, they were actually putting in $1,200 per fortnight straight into their superannuation funds, and in lieu of actually taking that as income. And what it did is it reduced their take-home pay by $370 per week, or $640 combined for the fortnight. So
and that's one that we see all the time. Like, when we're talking to someone and going, okay, we need to find $30,000 a year to put into your super fund, it sounds insurmountable until you break it down. There's two parts, which is your net income is actually only reducing. Like that 30,000 is coming off your before tax income, so you're not having to pay tax at 34.5% or 39% or whatever the case may be. And then when you break that down to a fortnightly basis, so in this case, something that seems like these guys would have been blown out thinking we've got to find 30 grand a year, and it reduces down to say you've just got to find $370 a week. That's all you need, 370. And as you say, at that point in time, you looked at their budget with them, and you could carve out expenses that money had been going out the door already, and it was just a matter of reallocating that before it got sort of used up in other areas.
That's right. And look, at the fantastic thing is you can stress test this as well.
Yep.
So if you buy an investment property, you have to borrow to do that.
Yep.
You can't stress test that. Yep. You're locked in.
Yep.
So with salary sacrifice to superannuation,
if you
can, you start with the assumption. Okay, I think we can afford this.
Yep.
I think we can afford $370 per week out of your budget.
Yep.
Net. Look, let's test that assumption. And let's put that in play. Now we put that in play, and we always have a follow-up meeting with our new clients after 4 pay runs, which is basically 2 months. And what gets reported back to us all the time is that they've done it standing on their head. They haven't even noticed it. So we've actually taken that money on a stress testing basis for 4 pay runs, and we check back in. And not one single client of ours has ever said we've ever noticed it. Because what's happened is just that their other expenses have adjusted.
In line with it. It's a good one. I think they talk about this in sales terms as the puppy dog close. So what they say here is you don't say to someone, I'm going to take $30,000 a year off you, and this is where, like you're saying, this strategy works really well for us as the advisor, is that we're saying, let's just try this for 2 months and see whether you can afford to do it. The reason they call it the puppy dog close is if you go to a pet shop, they don't say, here, take this dog home. It's going to cost you $50,000 over the course of the next 10 years. It's going to cause all sorts of stress and sleepless nights. They go, here's this cute little puppy, just take it home. And then if you don't want to keep it tomorrow, you can bring it back in. And that's sort of what we do.
I like that analogy.
And as you say, invariably, once we've got that set up and it's in place, it's inertia actually works on your behalf there, where you go, this is just happening every week, every fortnight. It just happens. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to try and find that money. It just rolls along. And as you say, most people don't notice it.
No, it's a good point, because we haven't had anyone that have come back and sorry, I'm just still a bit lost at
puppy
the comparison of puppy dog, maybe a bulldog or a.
I thought you'd like that one. I always like when I can throw out an analogy and I get a look from you. Like, what?
I'm still thinking about that 30 seconds later, thinking, no, there's nothing puppy dog like about you, mate. There's bulldog, I would say. You get the point, of course. Certainly from that point, it is a good analogy because just by putting that in place, we find that people's budget and everyone's budget has all sorts of rubbish in it. And what's happened along the way, the typical 53, 54, 55-year-old, as they've been promoted and risen to new positions with corresponding pay rises generally, what's happened is that they've just started spending that money on extra rubbish, basically.
That's right.
Most of the time. So
we've all done it. It's the easiest thing in the world to do, and so it's really just a matter of reversing a bit of that. And it's one of the basic tenets of personal finance is the concept of pay yourself first, so that. If every fortnight you have to make a mortgage repayment, you have to do all these other things, you have to pay your rates, you have to do all those things. We never go, I can't do that. You just find a way to make it happen. And that's kind of, like we said, a new decade is a great time to think about that, is to go a 10-year time frame to go, for the next 10 years, I just have to pay myself this amount. I have to make it happen. I have to find it somewhere. And like we say, it really is only I guess, a bit scary or can make things a bit tight for the first couple of months. And that's, I guess, the big thing that we've found is that if you thought I've got to find that money every fortnight for the next 10 years and that's going to be a hard slog, it really isn't, because as soon as you change your spending habits and as soon as you change your day-to-day habits to allow for that to be contributed in your super fund, within 2 months that's just the new norm for you. And the rest of that 10 years is just following those same habits.
That's right. So the other thing that we did was we just looked at the investment strategy of their superannuation funds.
Yep.
And found that they were invested a little bit too conservatively.
Yep.
And look, without going into too much detail for that, because that is a one-on-one situation that you would actually have to have a look at to see if it suits your risk profile and objectives. But for these people, they were invested a little bit too conservatively, so they weren't going to get the returns that they quite needed.
Yep.
So we adjusted that, and we adjusted that into a higher returning, higher growth fund, albeit with higher volatility.
Yep.
But we were happy, and they were happy with how diversified we could be.
Yep.
With that.
Yep.
And that certainly made a difference over that period of time. I just checked their average rate of return over that period. So it's been 9.96% net of tax.
Yep.
Inside their superannuation fund per annum.
Yep.
So look, one thing to point out there, that's not an exceptional return. It's a good return.
Yep.
But it is a return that's about on average with the longer term historical returns of higher growth,
they're invested in.
volatile style investments. So that's made a difference, because what they were invested into over that same period of time has performed lower than that.
Yep.
So it's performed south of 8% per annum over that period of time, what they actually were invested into. So
and I think a good point to make here, Michael, with that, over that sort of 9-10 year time frame that we're talking about, is that if you think back, so that 9.9, just under 10%, the return that they have actually gotten over that 9 years, that's included drops of 15-20% over that time frame, which is that volatility is actually below average. It's usually there are bigger drops than that throughout that time. But if you think about headlines that you would have read throughout that time, or news that you watched, there was no headline, or there was no news articles that you read that went, things are going along pretty well.
No.
It's always Donald Trump's going to do this, or I remember 9 years ago, I think Greece was probably the big thing at that point in time. Greece
was big. There was the fiscal cliff of Europe. So Europe was going to fall off a fiscal cliff.
Yeah, which was a great bit of imagery. There was we did this the other day.
Double dip recession was mentioned many times.
Yeah. There's all these things now we're 7-8 years on. You think about it and you go, it sounds like some really good racehorse names, and that's about it. But at the time, this was the scare. Like, we had people talking to us about this.
Look, just 12 months ago, so this time last year, December 2018, the investment strategy that we're talking about now was down just a fraction off 20%. So it had dropped by 19.6%.
Yep.
Or thereabouts.
Yeah.
So it was a vastly different scenario just 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Our advice at the time, it actually happened really quickly. So it dropped away really quickly, and it bounced back really quickly before people even knew about it. I mean, not many of our clients were even aware of that, which is the best way to be, because people tend to make poor decisions the more frequently they look at balances.
Yes, that's exactly
if you just ignore it and continue on with the strategy.
Yeah.
But our advice to our clients at that point in time, who were aware of it and were a little bit spooked from that, was, hey, just continue on with your strategy. Yep. So, bearing in mind that quite a lot of money is going into their superannuation fund on a weekly basis. So if you look at it on a weekly basis for a couple who are taking advantage of the $25,000 caps each, so it's $50,000 combined it's almost $1,000 a week is going into their superannuation fund.
Yeah.
Now, digressing here a little bit, but if volatility is actually their friend along the way, because you get prices drop by 20%, and when we talk about a 20% drop, no one's jumped in and stolen 20% out of your superannuation fund.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the share price or the unit price of the assets that you own in there has merely dropped from $1 to 80 cents. So with your $1,000 a week going in, you're buying in at 80 cents now. So you're buying, your $1,000 goes in and buys as much as it can, but instead of buying in at $1, it buys in at 80 cents. So buying 20% more.
Yeah. It's funny because we always talk about this, and intellectually that all makes perfect sense. But it is very hard at the time to say, hey, this is great news. Where everything's on sale. You're buying way more. You're buying a lot more of that company at that lower price. All those sorts of things. But that's, as you say, that's practically how it's working, and it is a lot easier to stick to that sort of mindset or to stick to that plan when it's over 10 years. And you go, well, I'm just going to put $1,000 a week into super, and I'm going to do that combined and including employer contributions. $1,000 a week is going in, and I just don't care what happens with those share prices. I don't care what happens with asset prices. I'm going to do that for 10 years. And as I said, this is where, looking back over that 9 years, these guys have returned 10%. It hasn't been a smooth, steady 10% return.
No.
It's been 20% drops within there. It's been years where there's been 26, 27% positive returns. All those sorts of things are all par for the course.
That's
but
right.
it's really that long-term strategy that we're looking at, which is what these guys have seen the benefit of.
That's right. So we made that change as well. So really, the elements to this strategy were consistency. So working backwards, coming up with an amount every week that we believed that they needed to put in, which was $600 per week. Tax planning. So obviously $600 per week is only $370 per week because you're not paying income tax. For these guys, their income tax rate was 39% each. Changing the investment strategy again, we looked at that and looked at the fact that they needed a higher return because they're a little bit below where they would have ordinarily been, even with the balance that they came to us with at $264,000. May of 2011. And effectively being really consistent about that and making sure that we set up, which is really important, to set up a per pay basis contribution. So if you get paid fortnightly, you want to be setting up a salary sacrifice arrangement with your employer where they salary sacrifice and put the money in, or you can actually do it now yourself and claim that as a tax deduction at the end of the financial year. And the best way to do that, we do this with our clients, is we just set up a push from their bank account via BPay. So fortnightly they get paid on a Tuesday, and on the Wednesday morning a BPay gets set up automatically, recurring every fortnight, pushed into their superannuation fund. So it's about being consistent. It's about not panicking when there are those drops. And so the results now, at this very point in time, December of 2019, so not quite 9 years into the strategy, their combined balance is $1,039,000. So, and none of that's been magic over that period of time. There hasn't been any exceptional magic that we've wielded.
There's been at no point in time did they did you pick some amazing share that doubled, or did you did they win the lotto or anything like that? It was just consistency over that 9 years, doing the right thing week in, week out, and that's got them sort of $800,000 better off.
That's right. So I did a quick analysis on where they were due to be. So without putting the money into superannuation, without the change of the investment strategy, over that period of time, right now they would be valued somewhere in the $600,000 to $650,000 range.
which lines up with, as we say, one of our rules of thumb with all of our clients is that we aim to try and add about $500,000 of additional retirement savings over that last 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
So in another year and a bit, hopefully that will have also outpaced a bit extra and will be about on track for these guys.
That's right.
I think this is a really good case study because it shows a couple of things, which is that we've glossed over a few of these areas which it's not quite as easy as just set up and forget and don't make any changes for 9 years. These guys have had different things in their life. They've had significant changes to their work. They've had significant changes to their lifestyle. That's all been adjusted, but the one thing that they have done really well is as we said, they've paid themselves first. They've come up with a plan from day one that they can stick to and that's going to get them where they need to be. And they've been able to just consistently stick to that, not get distracted, and stay focused and stick to the plan.
That's right. So the new decade's upon us. So this, and bearing in mind this example started not exactly on the first day of our current or previous decade. Because it didn't start until May of 2011, and we're looking at this in December 2019. So over that period of time, $264,000 has grown to $1,039,000 over that period of time, with no magic, just taking advantage of the things that we know that we are able to take advantage of, and strategies that work. So if you're listening and you haven't made a start, there's no better time than now. So you'll be listening to this probably when it first comes out in January of 2020, brand new of the new decade. 10 years flies by, and it'll be here before we know it. We'll be sitting here in December of 2029. So there's no better time to start now. You can certainly get in touch with us at Lighthouse Financial Advisers, Lighthouse Advisers with an e.com.au. Touch base with us. We'd be more than happy to sit down with you and discuss these strategies. And for our clients that are listening at the moment, so we have plenty of clients that are listening, of course, Dallas, that have only just started some of these strategies in 2017 or 2018.
Yes, that's right.
We have clients that have started before that, and they've seen quite a lot of the benefits that we're talking about here. We have a lot of new clients as well that have just started. So this is a real live case study, like we said. One of our first clients, and certainly not an exceptional case. It's just two of our stereotypical clients.
That's right.
And
I think the good point that you made there, Michael, about the 10 years goes so quick, and I can't remember where I read this the other day, talking about the concept of we are going to be sitting here in 10 years, unless something happens. We are all going to be sitting here in 10 years' time, as in we are going to be sitting here, and whoever's listening to this is going to be sitting where they are. You will have either had 10 years of making these changes and seeing the 10 years of benefits, or you'll be sitting in the same spot that you were, if that makes sense. So the next 10 years is going to come and go, and that's what we see all the time, and I guess it happens in our own lives, where it's so easy to look back and go, geez, where'd the last 5 years go? That time is going to go, regardless of what you do, whether you make a change, whether you don't make a change, whether you are doing everything you need to be on track or not. That's all going to happen anyway.
Yeah, and for these people and for all of our clients, it's not as if they've missed out on any lifestyle over that period of time. I mean, they've most of that money that's gone into their superannuation fund has come from just stuff that they were getting no enjoyment out of.
That's
so
right.
I mean, these people are still going on holidays. They're still still able to go out for dinner. They're still able to do all those types of things. Sure, they're giving up a little bit of that maybe. But most of what they're giving up is stuff that they just failed to get enjoyment out of. Just rubbish that had built into their budget. which we see all the time, and we're not even immune to that. I mean,
no, that's right.
We see that in our budgets over time, especially with we're both fathers of young children, so you can you see a lot of rubbish that can creep in, and you have to strip that out from time to time. So,
but that's I think a really good. The reason why we wanted to do this is and use a real case study here is this isn't to say there's some theoretical person that they could probably give this up and wouldn't notice it. These are real people that you have been meeting with for 9 years now, and they have said these things to you before around. We haven't missed that. We haven't noticed it. You know, we've still lived the lifestyle that we want to live. All those kinds of things. So
I think that's probably a good place to wrap up.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening. Look, we've really enjoyed doing these podcasts, and we really excited about the new decade of the new year. So,
thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Lighthouse Financial Advisers. We look forward to catching up again soon.